All right, let's process this photo. This is from my abandoned beach trip last month, and I got a lot of good shots on that trip. And I put a few of them up on the blog. I was working on that earlier today, and I wanted to work on this one and put it up as well. So let's finish this one off. Let's go ahead and out of Lightroom, let's send it over to Aurora HDR Pro. That's pretty much the only software I use for HDR now. Although I still will use, let's see, alignment, yes, always. Ghost reduction, not so much. Chromatic, yes. Aurora HDR Pro is about the only software I use now for HDR. Occasionally I'll still use the 32-bit processing. So this is what it came up with, is kind of a default. What I usually do, I mean, that one looks pretty good. I usually go back to default, or what I consider to be pretty much the basic merge of a 32-bit merge file without any additional processing thrown in by Aurora HDR Pro. It still throws in a little bit, but we'll get out pretty much all of it here. So that's the way it would look if I were to merge it 32-bit. Now I can do everything within Aurora HDR, which is why I like it a lot, and I'll show you. So I don't want much of this because I want to maintain that nice evening mood. You know, that sun's almost down. It was blazing there too. Okay. Then I have the tone here. I'm going to use that as my base exposure. Now, the way Aurora HDR works, it's so cool. You just build layers. Just put on another layer and work on each part of the photo that you want, or work on it globally, whatever you want to do. I just love it. Let's give something a little HDR look. Maybe that rock. And that's all I'm looking at now. I know all of this other stuff is getting way overdone. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be all right. No need to get uptight. Soft. No. There we go. Okay, so when I take this brush, notice how now the picture went back to the way it was, and I'm just brushing in the effect that we just created on there. And again, you can get as meticulous as you want when you do this, but generally you don't need to do much. Just bring a little bit of, just a little bit of texture in these areas. That's why we do HDR. That looks pretty good. I like that. We'll make a new layer, and let's do the water. Let's make the water look a little wetter, for example. To do that, you just boost up the clarity. Maybe you ooh, ouch. That's not it. Yeah, that's definitely way too much. Oh yeah. So if we turn off this layer, we can see what we were working with, and now we have that. And all we have to do is brush it in like we did the other. Okay, so here it comes. Nice reflection popping out now. Look at that. A little bit over here. Nice. Little swirly do down here. We'll just go ahead and bring all that in. Lovely. Okay. Now, do we want to do anything? And then we'll just make another layer. Curious about this sky. If I were to bring in the underexposed image, a -2 exposure, what does that sky look like? Okay, let's try the even exposure. And how does that compare with the HDR version? Okay, so what I want to do here is add some radiance to this. Add some color to it, some warmth. Oh yeah. Maybe a little less radiance. Yeah. And as before, we'll just brush in the sky we like. It's actually such fun. I love doing this. I don't hear. I'll wait till 2, 3 in the morning. Yeah. I hear lots of stuff. Okay. Maybe a little more color. Okay. Raise the temperature of the whole thing. Nice. I like this little cool thing back here. Okay, nice. And add a little magenta. Not much. Just a taste. I want to turn down the blue a little bit, make it a little darker, and a little less saturated. Good, good, good. Now let's go to the next layer, and we're going to denoise this whole bugger. Okay, this when you zoom in, you will see it's got a fair amount of noise. Not terrible, terrible. Yeah, that's super smooth. Really does a great job. Okay. Very nice. You know, why don't we just call that good? I need to take it back into Lightroom, where obviously I keep all of my photos. That's my hub. And I want to crop it and straighten the horizon a little bit. Those tools aren't available in Aurora HDR unless you use it as a standalone product. Then you have those options. But I think they figure when you use it as a plug-in that you have better tools that you're already familiar with for, you know, your cropping and that sort of deal. So here we are. Yeah, I think that came out nice. So we'll label this as a Aurora HDR image. So it's yellow. And we're going to come here. We're going to go to the develop module and just finish it off with making the horizon straight and a little bit of yes, maybe go out a little bit here. Oops, can't. Okay, no problem. Done deal. Oh, I'm going to want a little bit of vignette. I use probably too much, you know, but I find that. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Done. Right click and export this for the blog. Export, oopsie. Export a full-size JPEG, export the finished TIFF, and let's put her on the blog. Thanks for watching.